All right, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this development activities meeting. My name is Christian Umbach, and I'm with the Department of City Planning, and I'm a neighborhood planner, filling in for Ose Akinlotan, who is the Hill District planner, as you all know. I'm accompanied by my colleague AJ Herzog, who will be taking notes this evening. And we have a few projects on the agenda this evening, but first we will allow our registered community organizations to introduce themselves. And we have 4 of them with us tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. All right. Can everyone see the PDF?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I got a few screens going on here, so if I'm looking above, that's the other screen there. So okay. So yeah, I'll actually start with a few overview slides, and then we'll get to the RCO intros. So what is a registered community organization? Community organizations can apply to obtain formal status as a registered community organization, or RCO, with the city. The RCO plays a formal role in helping channel community input about development projects in their geographic area in the city. Becoming an RCO requires meeting certain criteria related to organizational standards, transparency, communication, etc. There is a biannual application renewal process with city planning. And a development activities meeting, or a DAM or a DAM. And so at a DAM, a developer will present their proposal and the community asks questions and gives comments. It is one part of the development process for projects that meet certain thresholds and go before a public board or commission. And so as we see here, the DAM always happens before the public hearing, at least 30 days. And there is a staff report that we complete, which documents the contents of the meeting, which is shared with the applicable board or commission. And so these are the potential board or commissions: Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Public Art and Civic Design Commission, or the Historic Review Commission. And here on the slide, I won't read them, but these are the several thresholds or criteria for projects of a certain scale or type that require a DAM. So specifically for projects applicable tonight, these boards would be the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and we will follow up with more information of the date of this hearing when we know. You can email testimony to zoningboard@pittsburghpa.gov. You can also send in letters to 100 Ross Street, 2nd floor, Pittsburgh, PA 15219. And mailed testimony must be received 2 business days before the meeting. And we can go back to this if we have specific questions. Another commission applicable tonight is the Planning Commission. And we'll also, once the date is formalized for these items, we will share that. Email testimony can also be received at planningcommission@pittsburghpa.gov. And we ask that the email testimony be received up until the business day before at 12 p.m. And same as the letter can be sent to the same location. All right. And we'll provide more information about the location of these meetings as well. All right, so as I mentioned, we have 2 agenda items. A project located at 1334 Fifth Avenue. It has to do with demolition and brick structure removal. And then the second project, 2305 Bedford Avenue, and this is the Bedford Dwellings Phase 2. And since these projects have overlap with more than one registered community organization, that's why we are co-hosting, and City Planning is hosting with our 4 registered community organizations. So we will now take some time for them to introduce themselves. All right, so if we have anyone from the Hill District Consensus Group, feel free to introduce the group.
Hi, good evening. This is Britt Collins. My apologies, I was just added into the meeting, but yes, I'll be more than happy to walk through the slides for the Hill District Consensus Group. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So the Hill District Consensus Group is a membership-based community organization with beginnings over 30 years ago so sorry. Beginning equipped us to become the Hill District Strategic Planning Table over 30 years ago. So it is also important to note that several Hill District community representatives and residents created our table to help protect residents from displacement, build solidarity, and to focus on development plans according to the Hill District cultural legacy and their perspectives. Next slide. So the Hill District Consensus Group mission is to create effective pathways for intergenerational residents to overcome economic, social, and housing disparities. So we stand for equity and social justice as it relates to race, class, gender, our true heritage, and other areas of disenfranchisement in our community. We are committed to standing up for policy change and ill will political practices to help improve the conditions of our community. We believe the people that are most marginalized by injustice have rights and should play a central role in preserving our culture as well as our community. Next slide, please. So our process is to do a general concept review, which typically happens with the board and staff of HDCG. Again, it centers around defining the conceptual and schematic form of the project. The developer would generally describe the project alignment with the master plan development principles. We also have an expedited review for projects conducted by Hill residents or Hill-based organizations. Again, to make sure they're aligned with master plan goals, and if they're located in the Hill and directly benefiting Hill residents and organizations. Next slide. So this is an example of our rubric that we use when we are meeting with said developers and reviewing the project. So I won't read that verbatim, but this is again our scoring rubric. Next slide. Then we have the phase 2, which is the design community impact review, which is where this is then presented in more detail to the community. And again, we look for specific points to be addressed, which is the economic benefit, fiscal benefit, employee benefits, housing benefits, community services benefits, which is typically your wraparound services, smart growth and environmental health benefits, historical, cultural, and artistic benefits. Next slide. This I thought was deleted, so I think I missed a deadline. But again, as far as the 2 projects being presented, we have not met with tract development and or their partners to discuss any updates for Bedford dwelling. Thank you so much. And you are able to follow us at hdcg.org or on Facebook or Instagram.
Great, thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Christian.
All
I will
right.
also,
Okay,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I will also just be representing the Hill District Collaborative, so I will take us through these slides as well.
Okay, sounds
It's
good.
just important to note that the Hill District Collaborative and Hill District Consensus Group has looked to consolidate our process so that we are able, to meet with developers and make sure they do align with the community goals. So I will go over this as well. Next slide. So the history for the Hill District Collaborative is a not-for-profit registered community organization representing the historic Hill District. We are formed by concerned Hill District residents and business owners who want to ensure a clear community development review process with a high level of community engagement. We became a City of Pittsburgh registered community organization on March 9th of 2022. Next slide. So our vision is to have the Hill District redeveloped into a safe and economically thriving community that maintains its historical culture. Our mission is to inform, engage, and connect Hill District residents, landowners, business owners, and nonprofits so that the community's interest and position can influence decisions on real estate development, economic development, and public safety. Our purpose is to cultivate a collaborative forum that is inclusive and respects all community members. Next slide. So we do have a few focus areas. We look at mixed income, affordable, and market housing development. We look for affordable home ownership and real estate investment. We look for a clean and economical energy projects. And we also look to facilitate connections between African American business owners and real estate developers. Next slide. So again, we don't have to go through this at length, as we mentioned, or as I mentioned before, Hill District Collaborative and Hill District Consensus Group works closely to share our process so that, we remain aligned and ensure that development is aligning with the master plan principles. Next slide. As far as the projects that we are presenting, we are deferring to Uptown Partners. I'm sorry, we are referring to the decision made by Uptown Partners for 1334 Fifth Avenue Demolition, and for Bedford Dwellings Phase 2 redevelopment. We are aware of the project, but we did not have any new meetings for any updates on the project. Next slide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now we'll go to our next RCO, Uptown Partners.
Hi everyone, I'm Michaela. I am the Real Estate and Development Vista with Uptown Partners. And we're basically just going to be covering the 1334 Fifth Ave demolition. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So yeah, it's me as a Real Estate and Development Vista, along with Dajanique Johnson, who's our Community Project Manager, and Dr. Brittany McDonald, who was our Executive Director. That's just the staff. You can go to the next slide. So our mission, the Uptown Partners of Pittsburgh, is a community-based organization of residents, institutions, and business owners that are working together to build a more vibrant, sustainable, and just community in Uptown for all. So we accomplish these things through the implementation of the Uptown Innovation District Plan, or Eco Innovation District Plan rather, or the EID. The city's first adopted neighborhood plan, actually, which focuses on the 4 facets of community development. So that's community, infrastructure, development, and mobility. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, so speaking on the 1334 Fifth Ave demolition, we have previously heard this plan from Orbital Engineering in May of 2023, and I wanted to reiterate our comments from last year. We do not approve of surface parking lots being created in the community. We are dedicated to protecting the corridor from further demolitions, and extension of their parking lot violates the Uptown Public Realm zoning codes. This plan also has a lack of a redevelopment plan, so we do not typically support demolitions without a proposed development plan, especially since the parking lot extension is in violation of Uptown zoning codes. So yeah, in summary, we're unfortunately not in support of this demolition project. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, and then that's just my contact information. You guys can reach out to me if you have any questions. But yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, and then I think finally, the Hill CDC.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diane Day, and I'm the Director of Programs, Policy, and Special Initiative with the Hill Community Development Corporation. You can go to the next slide. The Hill CDC is a place-based organization. We're focused on the redevelopment and revitalization of the historic Hill District. We like to say it's where cultural legacy meets future innovation, and we're happy to be celebrating over 38 years of operation. You could turn to the next page, please. Our mission works in partnership with residents and stakeholders to create, promote, and implement strategies and programs that connect plans, policy, and people to drive compelling community development opportunities here in the Greater Hill District. Next slide. Our focus areas include people, place, and policy. Next slide. And our work is really involved in real estate development, including court, commercial core, the Main Street activities, home ownership, economic development programs, including business and entrepreneurship, home ownership preparation, arts and culture. Also, our work involves policy and planning as we're doing today, ensuring promotion of equitable development and neighborhood planning. Next slide. We operate using a development review panel, which is the unified voice in the community. Our Hill District Review Panel consists of multiple organizations in the Hill District. We use a two-step process and we focus review and community scoring. Our panel consists of community residents that have the opportunity to do individual resident scoring. And once that is complete, it goes to the community to also score again. Next slide. The background of our DRP streamlines from community review on behalf of the Hill District community when it comes to planning and development. The DRP was founded nearly a decade ago, and the DRP model was designed and adopted by the Hill Community Development Corporation after negotiation with community partners and stakeholders and elected officials. Next slide, please. For the background of the DRP, it is a process that was strengthened and proven by multiple organizations that were added as members to ensure that there was collaboration and partnership within the Hill District. As of today, right now, we have 7 Hill District organizations responsible for a 9-person body of appointed individuals by the DRP committee. Next slide. We have over 60 projects reviewed, and the Hill District residents, they have actually a voice in the future development of the community, and all of our work is online. You can look at every DRP submission on www.hilldistrict.org/DRP. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the DRP is a 2-step process. The first step is a focused deep dive review and scoring at the committee level. If a plan is aligned with the master plan, the second step is to advance the plan for the community to review and vote. Each and every resident is allowed to vote. Next slide. If the DRP project is approved and they received a score of 80% or higher, then a letter of support is submitted on behalf of the DRP to the appropriate agencies and elected officials. Next slide. If the accumulation score of the project is less than 80%, we invite the developer to work with the Hill CDC first, then the DRP as a committee to better align their project with community goals. The focus is to help the plan achieve 80% or higher at the community level or a passing grade for the CSIP when it involves the lower hill. Next slide. If the developer chooses to abandon or disengage from or disregard the DRP community review process, then a letter of non-support is sent on behalf of the DRP to the appropriate agencies and elected officials. Only in this case will the Hill CDC publicly advocate for improvement of the plan on behalf of the Hill District. Next slide. When it comes to the projects this evening, as of today, the project is under review when it comes to Orbit Engineering. The project was first submitted in September of 2023. The DRP committee reviewed the application materials and determined that it needed more work to align the project with the Greater Hill District Master Plan. A follow-up presentation is tentatively scheduled for this December. The earliest voting by the Hill District residents would occur during the first quarter of 2025. As an RCO, the Hill District Community Development Corporation, we only endorse projects that have completed the Hill District Review Panel. And so any successful applications will be available and it can be found on our website. Next slide. When it comes to the tract development project, the 2305 Bedford Avenue, as of today, this project has not been submitted to the DRP. We do encourage them to submit the project for review on our website. As an RCO, again, the Hill District, the Hill CDC only endorses projects that have been completed through the DRP panel. Next slide. We encourage everyone to log in and become social with our social media sites. You can also line up and sign up for our email list, where we will provide a weekly roundup for all of our members. And then again, if you're interested in signing on our social media, you can do so at My Hill District. We also are on LinkedIn, and you can read up on all our company news on our LinkedIn website. Next slide. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate the introductions. All right, so I think we're gonna stop sharing and invite our first project to applicants to share their screen.
Hi, Christian. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
Are you gonna share, or do you want me to share?
I'm happy to share if I can get it enabled here. Let's
Okay.
see.
Yeah. I can.
I got it.
Okay, you got it? All right, great. Thanks. Yeah, feel free to take it away.
Super. So good evening, everybody. My name is John Kamen, and I'm an attorney for the applicant. And we're here this evening to talk about the demolition of 1334. First of all, I did want to say that we appreciate Christian pitching in for OSE tonight, and the entire DCP team for putting this damn meeting together. Additionally, we are appreciative of the time that was given to us by Hill CDC late last week to review what we're talking about. As the history said, this project was originally submitted about a year ago for discussions about the demolition of the building. And basically, I think part of the reason why it got stalled is our demolition contractor had sort of taken the lead on the project and wasn't familiar with the process that's required to go through for demolition of buildings that are in this particular zoning district. And so therefore, when they came back to us to ask us to get it moving again, we've picked it back up and are walking through the process. So if I go to the next slide, just a little bit about Orbital Engineering, who's one of the owners of this particular property. They've been in Uptown for over 40 years. They own the building on the corner. They've maintained their building in very good shape. They've got about 120 employees in the building, and believe that they're, an important part of Uptown and the Hill. The property that we're talking about is 1334 Fifth Avenue. It's in horrible shape. The reason why my client actually got involved with this is because the cars that they were parking next to the building were getting debris on them. They were informed that it was structurally deficient and ready to basically go ahead and fall down. This is an overhead view of the property. I hope you guys can see my cursor. The property that Orbital currently owns is on the corner here, and the property that we're talking about demolishing is right in the middle here, 1334 Fifth Avenue. Orbital does own, or an affiliate of Orbital owns, the parking on this side as well. This is Stevenson Street. This is Fifth Avenue, just for a frame of reference for everybody. This is a view looking down Fifth Avenue. Again, the Orbital Engineering building is here on the corner. And this is the corner of 1334. You can see the structural deterioration on the building, and you can see that there is scaffolding located in this picture in front of the building. This is a closer up view. We wanted a closer up view so that the truck wouldn't be in the way. But for frame of reference, this is also the Orbital building, and you can see again here on a close-up shot some of the major structural failures that are part of this building. You can also see that, as recommended, Nobody is allowed to park near the building because they wanted to make sure that the fall zone was protected should something come and fall, which is why those cones are there. This is again a close-up view. It does show access to our parking lot from the existing curb cut on Fifth Avenue. And again, you can see the block off from the fall zone associated with this side of the building. This picture is also good to show the cracks in the building's exterior that you can see, and you can see how badly deteriorated it is. And those cracks are not just in this facade, but also are step cracks that have gone through the building. This is a view of the building from the other side. So this is the billboard for a frame of reference looking down Fifth Avenue towards Stevenson. You can see this side of the building is a little bit better, though it does have some masonry issues associated with it. This is again a close-up of that side of the building. And you can see there are cars that are parked here on this side of the building. Again, this is a close-up of the other side of the building. This is a view of how you would enter the property from Watson Way, or Watson Street, excuse me. And then this is a proposed site plan. I heard Uptown Partners talking about earlier before that they were not in support of the demolition of the building. What we are proposing to do is to create a landscape buffer along the frontage of the building in the form of a separate lot. When we did that, this lot would no longer have frontage on Watson Street, and therefore would be entitled to be used as parking in the future as an as of right use. So no zoning board or anything else would be required. We see this as really an interim use, and spoke to the Hill CDC about this last week. We see this as a multi-step process. The first step of the process is to go ahead and to get our demolition approval. The second step of the process would be to basically go ahead and have the demolition performed. The third step of the process would be to have a separate lot created, like we're talking about, to create a landscape buffer so that we would be able to use it as parking as of right. And then the final step of the process, or I should say at least of the initial process, would be for us to start to have some conversations with Uptown Partners and the Hill CDC about what we would like these lots to be when they grow up. Orbital Engineering is a very flourishing business, has multiple locations across the country, headquartered here in Pittsburgh. We're not sure yet if we're thinking about building another office building on this for expansion. We're not sure if we're going to go down the route of mixed use with retail and potentially housing above. We're not sure if maybe it makes sense to just do some sort of housing project on it. The only thing that we do know for sure is that the building in its dilapidated condition cannot continue to exist. So our thought was that we would potentially explore the opportunities for it, because it is a good corner, and as I said in the first slide, we've been there for over 40 years. It's a good corner, and we think that these pieces consolidated and put together would potentially create a nice development site. We don't know what that's going to be, how it's going to be, what the use is, but we know at least for step one of the process is to get the demolition approved. Step two is to get the demolition performed. Step three is to get this sort of interim use in place. And step four is for us to put on our thinking hats to think about what it can be. And we're looking forward to collaborating with everybody through that. We anticipate it will be, essentially a multi-year process to get that to happen. So that's basically what we had for the development review meeting, or development activities meeting, I should say. We did commit to our discussion to come forward and to start the DRP process with the Hill CDC, and appreciate them putting us on the agenda for that in December. But as I said, that's sort of, starting the conversation of what we anticipate will be a multi-year process. So at this point, I'm happy to go ahead and stop my sharing, or I can leave the screen up and answer any questions that either staff or any of the RCOs or any of the participants may have. So thank you for your time. And also, I did want to say thank you to the 4 RCOs for putting the meeting on this evening. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, John, for the presentation. Yeah, so at this time, we're happy to take questions, comments, and the few ways we can do that. If you'd like to speak the question or comment out loud, feel free to use the raise hand tool, and then I can allow you to speak or unmute. And then the second option is feel free to type your question or comment in the chat function, and then I can relay that out, and we can offer a response from the applicant team.
Just one point of clarification, John said that the landscape buffer was on Watson. It's actually going to go on Fifth.
Yeah, the landscape buffer will be on Fifth so we can access from Watson. Thank you, Tricia.
Hi, this is Britt representing the Hill District Consensus Group and Hill District Collaborative. Just wanted to inquire as to why the collaborative or the consensus group was not contacted to initiate a review of this development. Just want to confirm if contact information was readily available to the developer, and why there was a choice not to contact or move forward with Hill District Collaborative and Hill District Consensus Group.
So we're happy to go ahead and have some discussions. I think that may have been an oversight on our part. So we're happy to go ahead and have some discussions and to share with you again, start the conversations about the future development of the site. But at this point, it's just really about the demolition.
Yeah, so I just wanted to come on to just touch base to see if perhaps you did not have the information. We can make sure that you do have our contact information, because we are looking forward to having further conversation about this development project and what the plans would be for this space.
Right, and we look forward to collaborating because again, we don't have any plans. So I think there's a good discussion about what needs are and what will work.
Right, great. We will make sure to share our information. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I'm just waiting just a few more moments just to see if there's any questions or comments out there. I don't see any I don't see any hands raised, and I don't believe I see anything in the chat. AJ, feel free to let me know. I guess we also have the Q&A as well. That's another function that can be typed out as well. I think so I also have that opened as well, but really whatever is most convenient.
And Christian, while you are waiting, one thing I would mention as well, and again, this is first step of multiple processes. We have contracted with an accredited MBE contractor to perform the demolition
Okay, well, yeah, I don't think we see any comments coming in at this time. I do believe that our next agenda item, I think, was potentially listed at 6:45. So we may take a little waiting time just to make sure the next applicant team can get on. But during that transition, we can also see if there's any last minute items that come in.
And just one other thing I would say, Christian, just so it's clear to the folks who are on the phone, though I think I know most of the names of the people who are there, who I know are pretty familiar with the process. But the next step for us would be, to make it on a planning commission agenda. As I said, there's no zoning board relief requested here, but because it is an uptown public realm district, demolition has to go through planning. So
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, that would be the next formal step.
Yeah.
When coordinated with the zoning team, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time, and have a great night.
Thank you, John. Just confirming, we did send in our contact information directly on chat through Zoom.
Great.
And this is Britt with Hill District Consensus Group and Collaborative.
Great. Thank you very much, Britt.
Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, so yeah, so now we'll be transitioning over to the second and final agenda item. And that is the Bedford Dwellings Phase 2 project. And so I believe on one of the postings, the time slot was for 6:45. So we'll allow the next few minutes to transition over to the other applicant team. So if you are on the applicant team for the next project, maybe just raise a hand and then we can promote you to a panelist. And then that allows you to share screen and present. And I'll check our contacts as well. Okay, great. Looks like we have Shannon Smith, so we'll go ahead and promote her.
Hi, so I think we're still waiting for a couple of people who are going to actually be the ones sharing their screen, and the architects on the project doing most of the talking and the developer.
All right, no, sounds good. Like I said, I think somewhere it was posted 6:45, so I think we're ahead of the game, and
I'm just perpetually early, so.
yeah, all good. All right, I think we have Addie joining now.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, welcome.
Nor if you're trying to be promoted to a panelist, I'm sending it out, but I'm not sure if you're receiving the request.
Yeah, I think there's also Joe Hackett. We'll need to promote him, and Daniel Aguilera. They're both attending.
Okay, sounds good. We'll keep our eye out.
Yeah, they're on the attendees list, I guess.
I think I just promoted them both. So
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if we're waiting on anybody else, but I think we have our whole group once they get promoted.
Okay, all right. Well, so that's great. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much right on time. So yeah, I think with I can pass it off to the applicant team. If you do have the presentation and would like to share you're more than welcome as a panelist. You can just, I think you should have permission.
Yeah.
So yeah, so feel free to take it away.
Yep, I'll just throw it up right now. All right. So hi, everybody. My name's Addie Cullen. I'm with Truck Development. I'm the project manager for the Hill District Bedford Dwellings Choice Neighborhood Grant. And we're here to talk about phase 2, which is our second phase with TRAC and ARMDC for the Hill District Choice Neighborhood Grant. So just as a refresher of what the Choice Neighborhood Grant is, we received a $50 million grant from HUD to redo Bedford dwellings last summer. This grant involves 3 separate items that it covers. First being the people plan. We have a robust trauma-informed case management team that works to help residents at Bedford dwellings with better outcomes for health, workforce, and education. That is being headed up by Macedonia Face and Neighborhood Resilience Project with help from DHS, Department of Human Services. We also have a behavioral health support team on site, and that helps with mental health as well. As part of the neighborhood grant, there are 4 critical community improvements. One is the creation of a new trail park along the bluff. This came out of the idea from the green print plan that was done probably like 2010. The idea for that is that now we'll be able to connect Francis all the way down to Ammons and create kind of an active park to add additional places for kids to play in the neighborhood. The next one is we have new home ownership opportunities. Right now, I know they're getting started on the townhomes along Francis Street. And then next is additional homeowner support for current homeowners that need help with either facade repairs or some work inside of the homes. And then lastly, we'll have some support for commercial activities along Center and Heron Avenue. The housing plan itself is to replace all 411 units. These are 1-for-1 replacement, so there will be no displacement of any residents. And then building back an additional 412 units for a total of 823 units. These will be done in multiple phases. So the first phase that TREC and ARMDC worked on is Reed Roberts. Construction's ongoing for that, and we hope to start moving residents in as early as beginning of next year. City's Edge is also currently under construction. That is a partnership between Midpoint Group of Companies and ARMDC. But now we're here to talk about Francis Street, which is our second phase. Then we'll be moving to Summers, Heron, and then Chauncey. So all in all, the whole grant will span about 10 years. We have to have all the money spent by the end of 2032. So we are currently going to start construction, hopefully in Francis Street in Q1 of 2025. So jumping into Francis Street, this is technically our third phase since City's Edge was involved. This will be a 1-for-1 replacement for a portion of the Chauncey units. There'll be 103 total replacement units on this site. We also have additional market rate units and affordable units between 50 and 80% AMI. The development will use twinning. We were awarded a 9% award over the summer this year, and we'll have 2 4% in here. We are committed to meeting the MWBE goals of 30% MBE and 15% WBE as prescribed in the Hill District, Greater Hill District Master Plan. We have 10% of all units is accessible, and almost all of the units are visitable. As you know, it's kind of hard to get the land completely flat in the Hill District. So we have about 8 units that aren't visitable, but majority of the units are, and I will kick it off to Joe to talk a little bit about how we really try to make everything. We're hauling off a lot of dirt to make it a little bit more visitable for everybody and to be able to get to the park. Our sustainability goals are zero energy ready homes, enterprise green community, and Energy Star. Some of our team members we have on the call. We have HACP, which is the affiliate for Allies and Ross Management Development Company, which is the co-developer with TRAC. WRT is our architect. Bowler is a civil engineer. LaQuantra Bonsi is our landscape engineer or landscaping, and then Mystic Construction is the contractor. So just to kind of an idea on phasing, we're talking about the Francis Street site, which is 9 acres that was demolished in early 2000s to build the Hope 6 project at Bedford Hill. And now we're coming back to redevelop it. It's an idea. This is just a rendering of what the site will look like. And I'm going to kick this over to Joe now to talk about our site plan.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is Joe Hackett from LaQuantra Bonsi Associates. I don't know if you can go back one slide real quick. So this is an aerial rendering of what the project's going to look like. What you see going from lower left to upper right, that street is Bedford Avenue. Everything on the lower right-hand corner is the existing neighborhood. It's not part of what we're talking about. So we're talking about everything sort of on the north side of Bedford Avenue. On the far left, you can see the existing Chauncey Street buildings that will remain as we're constructing on the Francis site. So in the middle of the block there, what you see is townhouses and small garden apartments that are fronting on the streets, fronting on Bedford Avenue and fronting on the new streets. To the north, what you see is that light green rectangle with a bunch of little people in it. That is a future park. The park will not be built as part of this phase. What we're doing is we're reserving enough land for it. And in the future, the Department of Public Works will actually design the park, go through a community process to figure out what folks want in the park. But really for right now, what we're doing is just saving enough land for it. What you see on the right side of the screen, facing Bedford Avenue, is a new 60-unit senior building. And then behind that is a 50-unit apartment building. So as Addie said, all told, this is 180 units. 70 units in the smaller buildings on the left, 60 in the senior building, and 50 in the apartment building. You can flip to the next slide. So this is the site plan, as if you're same angle as the previous rendering, but if you're sort of flying directly overhead. Bedford Avenue to the bottom. On the left, what we're calling New Street, and then to the top is New Park Street, and to the sort of the center of the screen is New Morgan Street. Those are not the names. We just put those names in as a placeholder so we could talk about them. The residents actually picked some names, and that's going through the approval process with city planning now. What you see to the north of the screen is that future park. The blue dashed outline is the entire perimeter of the project. Everything that's sort of in that deep red color are new buildings. On the left side, like I said, there are townhouses and small garden apartments. In the center of the block is parking. So when you're out on the street, when you're on Bedford Avenue, you're not going to see the parking. That also gives us a place to hide utilities, to do things like trash enclosures and mail pickup, and the sort of services that are needed by a development like this. But we don't want to put them front and center. What we want is the buildings to look like they fit into the Hill District. So we have a tight, small setback. Buildings are pushed up close. Everyone's got a front door that faces the street. Everyone's got a little porch facing the street. There is parking on the streets as well as parking in the block. The little purple and blue things that you see in a couple locations, those are playgrounds. There is some green space around inside the blocks that is for the residents. But like I said, to the north is going to be this future park that'll be this great asset, not just to this development, but to the entire Hill District. It'll be a great thing. And it's actually going to extend into the next 2 phases of development as well. So this is only 1/3 of the park. In the end, it's going to be 3 times this size. On the right side, facing Bedford Avenue, you see the 60-unit senior building. So it's got its long faces facing Bedford Avenue. We're trying to rebuild and create that line of buildings, that facade, that street wall that's been missing for the last since 2000. In between the senior building and the apartment building, there's a green space. That's a place for residents to gather. There'll be some community garden spaces there. There'll be barbecues. There'll be benches and tables and a small playground. All the sort of things that folks need in between the buildings to be able to gather and hang out and get to know each other, with parking off to the right. So as Addie said, this is 180 units. There are 102 replacement units, 44 are affordable or LIHTC units, and 33 market rate units. In each building, there's a mixture of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms, and there's even a couple of 4 bedrooms in the townhouses on the left side. So trying to provide a mixture of housing types, provide back what folks need. Folks are being relocated, but also provide market rate opportunities, provide a whole different suite of housing options so folks can find the exact place where they want to live. If you flip to the next slide. There's actually 3 phases, as Addie mentioned. They're all going to be constructed basically simultaneously. So each one of these colors represents a phase, and the phasing is only for funding. So everything in green, the townhouses and the small apartments, that's funded with 1 application. Everything in orange is funded in another. Everything in blue is funded in a third. On the right, you can see that breakdown that I just mentioned of the 180 units and all the different bedrooms, all the different bedroom sizes in each one of the buildings. So we're trying to provide this mixture, this lots of opportunities for folks. Flip to the next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Daniel from WRT to talk a lot more about the architecture.
Hi, everyone. Daniel Aguilera from WRT. I'll be going through the buildings to show you guys the layouts, how these units work, and then talk a little bit about the materiality and the connection to the greater community. So what we're looking at here is a floor plan of one of the low-rise buildings. This is part of the A block. This is building A8 on the southwest of the site. And this kind of shows you a typical layout of how these low-rise units work. As Joe mentioned, some of them are townhouses where one unit can go from the ground all the way to the roof, while some others are stacked flats, which might be a 1 unit on 1 floor and then a duplex on the top 2 floors. So here we're looking at some units, and you can see that the entrances are on the back side at level with the parking lot. And as you come in, residents have a little private space there, a little patio, has a little knee wall to kind of protect their view and have their space. As you enter the unit, you're in the living room and connecting into the kitchen and the dining space. And then in the back, each resident also has a little portion of exterior balcony or patio that they can access there. This specific situation, they're looking over Bedford Avenue on those balconies. Jump to the next slide. So now we can look at the mid-rise buildings. Here we're looking at the senior building that's again on that bottom right of the site along Bedford Ave. Here's the basement floor plan. So this is at the very lowest level, right at Bedford Ave. And this is a small portion of the floor plan, but it basically is just holding utilities like water and electricity, as well as bike storage. The main reason for this level is actually the connection for residents to enter in the building from Bedford Ave and that future bus stop that'll be located at this corner. And so residents can come in here from grade at Bedford Ave and then move up in the building. On the next slide, we'll see the first floor plan. And so this is really the primary resident access back from that parking lot. You can see there in the center, kind of at the knuckle of the building. That's where residents come in and come into a big, larger open lobby space where the floor is actually open to that basement from below, kind of connecting those 2 main entrances of the building. This specific floor plan on the first floor is half residents and then half the actual amenities for the residents. So if you look on the left wing of the building, you see things like the fitness room, an exterior covered porch that opens up to that shared green space Joe talked about, as well as a larger community room with a kitchen up front and a covered deck that actually overlooks that corner of Bedford and New Morgan. That really we see as a great gem of this building, as it overlooks that street corner, gives eyes on the street and a lot of presence to the greater community. On the right half of the plan, you're seeing a typical layout of how the units are. This building will be 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. And the floors above this are all residential, again, 1- and 2-bedroom units spread out across the whole floor plate. In the next mid-rise building, the multifamily building towards the back of the site, similar kind of layout, but this building starts at the first floor. There is no basement, so residents can enter in here directly from the parking lot. You can see again at that knuckle, the vestibule, or people can come from the other side, which kind of connects to that A block and that future park that Joe mentioned. So here, a similar layout where we have some units on the ground floor to the right wing and a few utilities there as well. And then most of the primary amenities for the residents are on that left and bottom wing. We have a large fitness room, a playroom for children, a computer/library room, and then a larger community room that opens up to a covered patio, and again connects to that green space connecting both mid-rise buildings. One note about the amenities in this building is it's not only for the residents of this specific building, but also all of those in the A block in those low-rise buildings to the left. Next slide. So here we can kind of see some of the typical layouts of the units, and also compare to the existing unit types that are in Bedford dwellings currently. So each unit is not only larger than the existing current units, but they also have greater amounts of storage, larger bedrooms, larger bathrooms, and all the units will have washer dryer in the unit. So here you can see the 1-bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. We can go to the next slide. So talking a little bit about the materiality of these buildings, we really looked at the context for the low rise specifically, many 2- to 3-story townhouse style buildings or single family dwelling units, and a lot of mixed brick of tan brick, red brick, also a mix of pitched roofs and flat roofs. A lot of these housing types have porches or some balconies and some siding as well. So speaking of that language in our design, you can see the elevation on the bottom. We're using the same kind of idea of a mix different types of brick to create some variety, as well as adding in color pops of fiber cement siding at different portions. And again, a mix of pitched roofs and flat roofs as well. And then you can also see a bit of the patios and balconies that happen in these unit types. Moving into the mid-rise buildings, again, similar strategy where we looked at a similar style of buildings in the area, 3 to 5 stories now, mid-rise apartment buildings, and we're seeing a lot of metal panel, fiber cement panel, brick, lighter cast stone, and we tried to echo a lot of that language as well. So you can see our use of red brick here and lighter cast stone elements and details around the window. And then on the top floor above the brick, we accent it with a bronze metal panel to kind of break up the massing there. And then also use a lighter fiber cement panel. And these moments of insets where the stairs or elevator is, we have a pop of color there where we can bring in another fiber cement color and give a little life to that area. This is the senior building along Bedford. This one is the multifamily building in the back, a very similar strategy, trying to match, but also be its own unique language as well. So here in this insets, instead of a light green, we're using an orangish kind of burntish red in the back, but the same brick color and same dark bronze metal panel and light gray fiber cement panel. In the next slide, you can see from a street view all the buildings together. So here we're looking at the low-rise portion, the A block. So you can see a little variation in the different brick or fiber cement siding that we use. Can kind of change up the style of the buildings, but again, matching the context of height and scale of these. And on the next slide, we can see the mid-rise buildings related to each other, as well as some of that low-rise portion that's on the next block over. Similar language, but also being a distinct style as they're different scales of building. And then on the next slide, we can see some rendered perspectives of what these buildings will look like from the street. So here we're on Bedford Avenue looking back towards the A block, and you can see the senior building kind of peeking out in the back there. So again, those patios and balconies looking out onto the street, and a lot of connection there with Bedford Ave. On the next one, we'll zoom in a little bit towards that senior building on that corner of Bedford and New Morgan. You can kind of see in this, especially that corner balcony area I was talking about from the community room that really connects down to Bedford Ave and kind of creates eyes on the street and gives that feel. And in the last rendering, this is a view from that new future park out in the back of the site, looking back towards the multifamily building and the senior building. And then you can see a little peek of the low-rise portion on the A block to the right there. One thing we wanted to touch on was the sustainability. As Addie mentioned up top, we have a few different guidelines that we're following, including, Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready Homes, and Enterprise Green Communities. But with that, all of these buildings, none of the buildings will have gas. They'll be all electric. We use very high efficiency heating and cooling systems, LED light fixtures, and low flow plumbing, and natural ventilation to all the units. All the buildings will also be solar ready. So they'll be prepared and designed to have solar panels installed in the future. Thank you.
Just a little update on where we are with the schedule. We had met with the Hill District DRP last year and received our approval from DRP in February 29th of this year. We applied for both the 9% and the 4% low-income housing tax credits in the last round. We have started early site work on the site right now because we have to do undermining on the full site as well as clear, grub, and also do massive earthwork to make sure that the site is handicap accessible to the park. We were hoped to close in Q1 2025 and begin construction right after that. We expect to have leasing as probably in the summer of 2026. I think that's all we have. I just want to show, we've reached out to not only the Hill CDC, but we also met with the Hill Consensus Group and the Hill Collaborative, both to discuss the project previously, and as well as the residents. We continue to meet with them regularly to give them updates on the project and conducted a resident charrette last year. Yep, Diane?
So I just have a quick question because I think there was some confusion on the address. So I want to confirm what Addie said is that they did meet with the DRP and they were approved in February. But I'm confused on the address that we were given for the DAM meeting, 2305 Bedford. We didn't recognize that to be Francis Street Phase 2. And so I think that when going forward, especially since there's so many projects and they're being called so many different names, if we can stick and be consistent across the board on what the name of the project is so that we can make sure that we're giving correct information. Is there any reason why we shift to 2305 Bedford instead of Francis Street?
Shannon, can you answer that? I know that you applied for the permit. Is that just because that was the only address we had?
Yeah, so there aren't any addresses associated with the Francis Street block anymore, and we're going through the process currently with the city to obtain street names for the new streets that are going to be dedicated city streets. So until we get those and then also apply for addressing, that is the current Envision Center. So that just was the only address that we could choose that wasn't necessarily already a housing unit. We just did it to get the process rolling and to get moving forward while we go through the city process to name streets and receive addresses.
I think this is going to be very something that we want to make sure we're consistent on, because after the community is engaged, they're going to want to stay abreast on all the developments. And this would have been one that, you know, if we had advertised it correctly, I'm sure we would have had more community involvement in this particular meeting. So I'm just going to ask that going forward, that it remains consistent so that we are able to respond appropriately.
Sure thing. Yeah, I apologize for that. We tried to also throw into every application that we filled out where there was a slot to kind of write something other than a certified address, that it was the Francis Street block. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for the presentation, and I think at this time we will open it up for any questions or comments from the participants. So feel free, if you'd like to write a question or comment in the chat, you can type it out, or if you'd like to speak a question, please raise your hand, and then we can invite you to speak. One thing while we're waiting, I will say, oh, okay, I think we have a hand. Yes, Carol, feel free to go ahead.
I don't have a question. I do want to say, moving forward, I think there needs to be more communication, because a lot of people don't know what's going on Francis Street. And although each group tries to do their best to communicate, people that are not aware, you know, they really are not aware. So I'm, you know, always trying to figure out this communication thing, right? Because everybody doesn't go to everybody's meeting or a part of all these groups or even a part of our groups. But maybe it could be a sign put up there that even when people walk or drive through, they could say, oh, okay, that's part of the choice neighborhood. Because, you know, not to, you know, say people are wrong, but people assume like, oh, somebody brought Francis Street, and, you know, they didn't even give the people, like, stuff goes the wrong way, like what Diane said. So maybe it should be a sign put up there to say choice neighborhood coming soon, or, you know, because right now all people see is trucks up there and, you know, really and truly don't know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, Carol. I'll put something together and get that made. We'll get something up on the construction fence, since we've got a pretty easy access to for some place to put it.
Yeah, thank you. That would help so much, because like I said, everybody ain't connected or go to meetings or do all that, you know, the things that we're familiar or even privileged to doing. So
yeah, no, absolutely. We'll get one put up.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. I think that's a really great point. And one thing, you know, we will have a recording of this meeting. So for folks that maybe weren't able to attend, we'll make sure to share out the link. So at least if folks want to listen to the presentation, it hasn't been, there will be a space for that. I think just one question of curiosity on my end is, could you maybe talk through some of the city zoning process? Like, will this have to go to planning commission? And if so, maybe people might be curious about that process.
Yeah, I can speak to that. This is Joe Hackett again. So we've begun to submit drawings to the city. As Shannon mentioned, we've submitted for addresses. That's one separate piece. We will be going to the zoning hearing board for some minor dimensional variances. As I mentioned, we're trying to create a real tight setback, so this looks like it fits into the Hill District. The current setback is much bigger than we'd like, so we're going to need to get some relief from that. We have to go to the Contextual Design Advisory Panel, CDAP. We're actually meeting with them tomorrow, and we're going to give essentially the same presentation, and hopefully we'll get some favorable comments from them. And then we do have to go to the Planning Commission as well. And all those dates, I think we'll given the comment before about the communication, I think there's probably a way to get all those dates out to everybody so they're understanding what's coming up, what's next, and how they can participate.
Great, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And yeah, and definitely keep Osei, our neighborhood planner for the Hill, in the loop. I'm sure she can help as well.
We will do that.
All right, well, I think unless there's any final thoughts, hearing none, just want to thank everyone for their time this evening. Thank you to the applicants and the RCOs for their presence here. And I think with that, yeah, we'll bring the meeting to a close.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.